Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Metaworld News for the week ending the 14th of May 2017, which is the day we're broadcasting this live. And let me see. Well, for one thing, if you're looking at me today, you'll probably notice that my avatar's lips are not moving. We're not quite sure what the problem is here, but we think voice may be off on the region. But oddly enough, I'm bringing you this today from a desktop client called Radagast. Because the main machine we do broadcasting on is down for the count following a Windows 10 update. We will have something sorted by next week. So there's going to be no edition of the Inworld review, by the way, for those of you who will be hanging on for that. It would just be too impossible really to do it. So to the news. I'm going to start off with some news. You'll be able to find links for this stuff. If you don't follow me reading them out, you can find them at twitter.com/Malburns, all one word. That's Malburns. And these are just links about the highlights from virtual reality type stuff, a bit over and beyond the metaverse. So starting off 5 days ago, which is probably Tuesday last week, Digital Trends site reports on NVIDIA showing off its multi-user VR system at their GPU technology conference. This is clearly on the hardware side, but when it comes to out-of-home VR experience, this is actually quite interesting because the idea is you can not only go into a headset in an out-of-home place, but there'll also be a hardware-built multi-user system involved, which is actually in many ways what virtual spaces are all about for us. Right, inspiring the next generation of content creators. This is a post at Read Write website. And when talk about next generation content creators, guess what medium they're talking about? Yes, the obligatory VR. Now, Road to VR.com has an article on Philip Rosedale's new venture called High Fidelity is Architecting for VR Privacy with Self-Sovereign Identity. This is more about the approach they're taking to the open source and securing your identity online with high fidelity and stuff. A more specific strand of what Fidelity is doing on that front. Now, I'm not going to summarize anything there. I'm sure you know High Fidelity, but if you want to read out their identity ideas or plans, that's where to go. UploadVR.com has an article, VR for Good, how VR together helps the VR industry give back. This is about VR Together is a group that has been formed, industry group, as it were, to do good things. Basically, the VR industry is going to do good things in order to promote themselves. Of course they are. Right. VoicesOfVR.com's podcast, number 534 early in the week. Microsoft's technical evangelist talks about presence in VR game design. Interesting enough, but of course, being Microsoft, they're focused on HoloLens and quite a lot on mixed reality type stuff. And of course, the ubiquitous word there is game, but they are actually talking about presence too, which is something we pretty much identify with virtual worlds. Right, RoadToVR.com again. Ben Lang has a post about this pulsating haptic skin is somewhat creepy, but mostly awesome. Yes, I mean, forget your goggles and your Lycra. Well, this is closer to the Lycra suits. They can actually make a skin for you, or they will be able to. Apparently, Cornell's Organic Robotics Lab is using an array of embedded pneumatic actuators to create haptic feedback, which feels quite organic compared to the more mechanical feel of many other haptic technologies out there. So it's the ability to form a flexible, omnipulse skin into arbitrary shapes. Oh, the future sounds wonderful, doesn't it?
Good.
Kurzweil AI, that's KURZWEILAI.net. Um, Amazing stuff posted on that site just about every day, by the way. But this one is about the virtual reality therapy found to be effective for treating phobias and PTSD. Nothing really new there, but coming a report from a wonderful source there, basically. Right, a company called Matterport have partnered with Google to bring virtual reality capability to Street View. Basically, you better plonk an avatar into Street View. As opposed to Google Earth or something like that. You can find a bit more about it at virtuality-news.net. So that's virtuality, all one word, dash connecting with word news, .net. Yeah. And a new VR and AR standard would set the bar for rewriting reality. This is posted at The Verge. And they're covering the fact that IEEE Standards Association is working on a series of standards for virtual and augmented reality. And the news is announced ahead of this year's Augmented Reality Expo, the short name AUR. I think Shoot is still involved with that too. I believe that is happening this week. I will no doubt find out when the video feeds start coming in tomorrow. Yeah, check out The Verge for what the IEEE people are doing, basically. Nextnature.net, nature as in the natural world, so it's nextnature, one word, .net. A virtual reality retreat. This is just nice. I thought I'd put it in. Basically, a retreat called Infinity House has opened its doors, but it's entirely a virtual world. And it's the world's first virtual retreat for the sake of self-enrichment. Well, all in a good cause there. I like the sound of that, but I must admit it looks more like a photo panorama than there's nothing visually in the article that makes me think, oh, there's a wow place. Virtual currencies for virtual reality worlds. A bit of an overview here. They do mention things like the Lindens as something that's been around for a long while, and Bitcoin, and they look at various possible currencies for use in virtual worlds, and that's opposed to virtualrealitytimes.com. Virtualrealitytimes, all one word, .com. And oh dear, I've just done 2 pages instead of 1. That was clever. Right. VRScout.com has the week in VR review. This is a review and podcast by Malia Probst. I always call her Maria Probost, and that is absolutely not right. It's Malia, M-A-L-I-A, and the surname is P-R-O-B-S-T. But she does a weekly, and it is a she. I can tell you that. I know. She does a weekly podcast report, and there's a sort of accompanying text on that post at vrscout.com. That was a couple of days back. The Cambridge-based, although now London-based, I should say, a company Improbable have raised over $500 million to create tools for the metaverse. This is a report at uploadvr.com. Now, this it's not clear from the headline here, but this is additional funding. And I was reading separately. That's about that. There is another post here at CNN Money entitled "This Virtual Reality Startup is Now Worth $1 billion," and that's again is Improbable, who are based in the UK here. Their total worth is now over $1 billion. Where the 500 million they raised is incidental to that, as it were. So it's more money rather than just money. That makes sense. Project Holodeck from NVIDIA, who make your wonderful graphics cards, of course, is a social VR space with realistic physics. NVIDIA, again, have been showing off an actual space with realistic physics in it. The physics may be good, but the avatars don't look too great. But I mean, it's not really NVIDIA's business to do that, basically. But the space they're showing off is a social VR space, so it will qualify in our sort of what we bracket as the metaverse, as opposed to VR. So something nice could happen with that. NVIDIA is a very rich company these days. They're in more demand than ever. So good to see them pioneering in various fields, or developing in various fields might be the more appropriate expression. All right, VESA, that's VESA, creates AR and VR special interest group. And this is posted at uploadvr.com. And this is not the VR for Good one. This is yet another special interest group that has started this week. It is based on hardware technologies, really. It's people on the hardware side, a group of people who are responsible for our display standards, be it anything from VGA to DVI to LVDS and even DisplayPort and USB Type-C, whatever, which there's been some controversy over during this last week, but in a more general sense. So go figure. That's at uploadvr.com. And over here one day ago, right. Another post at uploadvr.com is about it's the same topic I announced earlier about the haptic skin that's being created by Cornell Research Lab, which makes VR feel human. And uploadvr.com again, another podcast that it's not weekly, it just comes when it comes. Number 42 of Research VR's podcast. And various things on that program, as it were, but it's centered on using HoloLens during real surgery. Basically, that was their thing of the what was it, as it were. Okay. So I'm now moving into what little we have for the open metaverse here this week. And in fact, I think just to break up these headlines a little bit, I'm going to hand over to my colleague James Outloud here for brief highlights of what the open simulator developers have been up to. So over to you, James.
Yeah, sure, Mal. This once again was a busy week with the developers, or at least a very active meeting. There were a lot of people again showed up, and almost like the previous week, it was a very technically focused trouble-solving meeting about a particular topic. So a couple people reporting just a couple small things, checking on the map tiles on OS Grid and things like that. It was noted that a couple of the core developers are making some progress on the permission model, work that needs to be done. And then there was the bulk of the meeting was really talking about something in the scripting language of Open Simulator. What's used a lot is calling things that are called lists. So, groups of variables or groups of data that are used to manipulate various functions of, the objects and interactions. And for some reason on Windows, that list function is terribly, terribly slow. And so, people were brainstorming, trying to figure out why is that so slow. And I think for most people in Open Simulator, it's not a problem. But for people who are doing things that involve very particular timing, such as, shooting projectiles or moving vehicles and things like that, having the list perform slow is noticeable. And so most of the meeting was quite a discussion about, where could that problem possibly be and what might be some solutions for it. Yeah.
I think the problem is probably with Microsoft and Windows because the operative word there is SLOW. And the opposite word for the future seems to be SLOWER.
Yeah. Well,
what can you do?
Yeah, I don't know, work at I'm not a very computer technology, the the very low bits of how things work, but it just feels to
Yeah.
me that, here's a program, Open Simulator, calling on a server to call on a database. And I just feel like there's probably at some point so many levels of handling a request for a list that, that Windows is just not very good at that. Working on Linux machines, it's brilliant. So,
Yeah.
yep,
Go figure. Go
yep,
figure.
yep.
Mm.
But good meeting and great turnout and a lot of people very actively involved. Oh, and one other
Wait.
comment. This might be more of a I don't know. I don't think it's an in-world review comment, but there was a great meeting of the IMA also on Friday, and it was kind of a
Oh.
summary report. This is the Infinite Metaverse Alliance,
Yep.
and basically people identifying the working groups that are working
Yep.
on particular topics, and it was a great meeting. It was great to see everybody together, people representing the efforts that they're going to be working on, and very exciting.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Thanks. Yeah, appropriately you mentioned the IMA, which we follow greatly. Obviously, near the end of the week, I wasn't able to get into that one, although I would have been able to make it, ironically. Um, uh, yes, at the moment, the only IMA ones I've been to is the kind of guiding committee or whatever they're called. And I
Hmm.
think there's another one coming up in a week or two. But appropriately, I've got a link to, I think, a Melville site, Virtual Outworlding.
Hmm.
And on Friday, he posted 2017 OSHG roadmap to joining Web Worlds to OpenSim. It's a bit of an awkward, and no offense to Thinker, he's a wonderful person, but I always find it very difficult to read his blogs because he puts a line or two at the top, then you have to scroll all over the place to find the continuation, and it's often like a list of subjects rather than an editorial.
Yep.
But this is quite an interesting one. Basically, I think basically it's about saving OAR files and then deploying them to this web world a thing that he's actually working on. How do web worlds relate to user-built virtual worlds, for example? uh, User-built virtual worlds would have lots of capable people. That's an interesting thought.
Hmm.
People who are the value of the worlds, but basically it's knowledge of HTML5, JavaScript, and Collada are the basic things you need to know to actually build your own web world. And he also gives additional resource links to WebGL frameworks, and a JavaScript called Babylon, which I've got a link to somewhere, but I'm no JavaScript person. Anyway, his site is called virtualoutworlding.blogspot.co.uk, which is an odd address for him. I think blogspot.com will get you it anyway. Virtual outworlding is all one word, so it's virtual as in virtual reality, and then out as in going out as opposed to in, and then world and then ing. So virtualoutworlding.blogspot.com. I guess we'll do it for that. So let me go back. That was the one called My Posts, and that just leaves me with Metaworld. I don't think there's a couple of other things in here that didn't make it there. Right, we do have an additional Twitter stream that's sparsely populated at the moment for this news. It's just twitter.com/Metaworld News, or one word. And let me see what we've got here. The same link to Thinker and Melville and High Fidelity. Genesis Metaverse takes currency battle public. This is a report from Maria, of course, at hypergridbusiness.com. And yeah, well, find out about it there. There's too much of this stuff goes on these days. Something I thought was rather interesting. I forget whether I downloaded it or not, but The Sims. Right, before the days of Second Life, a lot of people were, or who came to Second Life, were actually in a sort of early thing called The Sims, where you sort of you built places and you met with people in them. It was sort of the original social world kind of thing. And I have a post here at High's Nobody. I'm going to have to spell you that one.
Mm-hmm.
Highsnobe. Sorry, start again. Highsnobiety. High snobiety or something. Who knows? Who knows? But that's the address. You'll find it on my feed if you didn't really figure out that spelling. Anyway, The Sims in mobile form is is free, and it's available on iOS, the iPad, etc., or on Android pads. And I'm probably going to have a fiddle in that because I can do it when I'm lying horizontally holding up my iPad. A very, very easy way to get into a virtual world, that is.
Yep.
Okay, and a site developer.space, SPACE. This is related to sine wave space that, of course, we were talking about greatly on Crossworlds Inworld Review. This is really the developers portal there. If you want it, I thought I'd post it in our newsfeed anyway. Virtual World for Unity developers, and there you go. And that actually, believe it or not, appears to be it. All my other stuff is my back channels to ye olde Second Life destinations, and this is not the place for those. So, yeah, I think that's it for this week. Despite our little snags at this end, we got it. The show must go on, as they say. And yeah, anything else from you, James? Or
No, I don't think so. It's very busy week. It's I guess maybe end of academic calendar. Maybe has some influence on what people are doing. I know that in my area of the world, universities and schools have come to a close. So I wonder if that's having an impact on people's activities.
well, maybe it means they have time off to do the activities
That's right.
they wouldn't otherwise be
That's
doing.
right.
So maybe that's a good sign.
Yep,
We'll have lots more news in coming weeks.
Hopefully.
While everybody's on power down, so to speak, or shifted their power up to another avenue.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, that's it for the news this week. We'll be back with another bulletin this time next week, of course. But until then, just have a good week. Keep yourself active in virtual worlds, if that is your thing. Or follow our Twitter streams to find out news daily, sometimes even hourly, as it happens. So we'll see you next week. Bye for now.